Okay, we will.
Huge audience. I love it. Come together.
Brian is already there. Brian is Brian Forth. You're what, commercial director?
Correct.
Of Finnplay, Finnish platform provider. And he's going to talk about platform technology in the Netherlands.
Yeah, we are the biggest Finnish platform in the Netherlands. You know, go figure for what that's worth. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak. This was kind of a last-minute invitation to come and do this, what I'll call a thinly disguised infomercial for Finnplay. The morning sessions were interesting. I must say I walk away with a lot of empathy for the operators in this market. Incredible amount of pressure, I do wonder from time to time how they manage. By the time they've paid, you know, their game providers, their payment transactions, 39.7% taxation, paid for their people, their acquisition, their platform, it's hard to understand how there's anything left at the table to run a profitable business in these conditions. So as I say, I have great empathy, but that kind of translates into what we do, which is technology, and it means that we have basically 100% uptime requirement. There can be no room for error in technical delivery in a difficult market like the Netherlands. Because operators are under tremendous pressure in every other direction. The last thing they need is to get a phone call that something's going wrong with the audit with the KSA today, or that there's been an unplanned downtime and their reputation is struggling and suffering because of that. So technical excellence is kind of what's required. I often say that I'm working in the least sexy side of the industry. So, you know, if you consider the operation is like an F1 car, we're the guys kind of making sure that the brake fluid is there and that, you know, the cylinders are properly oiled and that the thing moves perfectly. And in an ideal world, you don't even know that we're there. I mean, you only really find out if something's wrong on the technical side when things go wrong. Generally, things need to go right all the time. And so, although I try not to oversell our company, I am a sales guy, and I'm often proud of saying the fact that even though we've been around actually since 2008, so 16 years in the industry, welcome to the spot. All right, my audience just grew by about 20%. So even though, you know, we've been doing this since 2008, we have always been specialized in regulated markets, which is a different animal completely. And it was a choice made by our founders back at the time that, you know, these are, it's a different set of requirements on the technical side than when you're in the gray markets. Of course, there's a lot more growth potential on the gray side, and I know of a lot of operators right now who are carrying even the Dutch license and are asking themselves, why am I putting myself through all this misery? There's a lot less technical requirements, you don't pay the taxes, etc. So if you're going to take that plunge and go into a new market like, say, Finland, which is opening shortly, you want to be absolutely sure that on the technical side you're covered. So this is what we do. We were acquired by the Entain Group in 2021, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, maybe the second largest conglomeration of operators in the industry. So we're a bit of an odd animal in the Entain umbrella because we're a B2B technical services provider. But it does mean that, that they are able to work with us and use us. And so we have some brands coming from them to us as well. Like I said earlier, on the technology side, things like responsible gaming, compliance, customization, localization, agile development, these are the things that we specialize in. And I call it the unsexy side, but it's the necessary side of the industry. And move to next. There we go. I'll try to soft sell the promotions, but these are the markets that we're in. We've won plenty of awards, ISO 27001 certified, 12 operators, 20 brands, and 5 of those brands are actually here in the Netherlands. So we have a lot of experience. We were in the very beginning when the Dutch market first opened. There was 10 licenses, I guess, issued. 2 of them were on our little Finnish platform. So that kind of grew our footprint here, and as a result, we ended up building a team inside the company that's really focused and specialized just on this market. And we provide everything that the operators need, and it really comes down to what they want. Of course, we have a back office like every good PAM does. We have integrated engagement features and bonusing and campaigns. We also have mobile application, native app live in the Netherlands and other jurisdictions as well, and we can do front end if it's needed. And this is just a look at the platform. I'm not going to get into the technical details. I'm sure many of you in the audience, including my friendly competitor, know all that's required, but we have to make sure that everything works. Your game integrations, your payment integrations, all the third party, and if you have the front end with us. This little green one at the bottom, the data vault regulator, again, the least sexy side, but so critical in this market, reporting via the CDB to the KSA. It sounds like it should be a pretty simple thing, just pushing data to the local regulator so they can get some reports, but they have made it incredibly difficult in this market. And it's not a static thing, it's changing all the time. So we have actually our largest sub-team inside the company at the moment is basically dedicated to this alone, because it's moving and changing all the time, and a failure to deliver there can have huge impact for the operator and create a lot of headaches. I can say we have fortunately not had that problem because we specialize it and we work. If you do, you know, penalties, things like that, they add up really quickly. And of course you have to be a proper platform, you have to have all of the best content available, already integrated, specialized for the market, on the payment and the game side. I don't see my IDN guy here, but I promised to show him that I added his logo, because of course we have IDN here in the Dutch market. And then of course all the third-party integrations, things like in the Dutch market, CDDN becomes quite important, BlueM for onboarding. These are all very regional, and you need to have the best ones. Quick look at our brands, and now you can see, probably most relevant for today, on the bottom, those 5 brands are our currently live brands in the Netherlands. Harmerson, Lucky 7. Casino came in the first application. Fairplay Casino, so both Fairplay and Harmerson are land-based businesses, really well established in the Dutch market, and we help them take their brands online. And Gold Run Casino also, you may have seen some press about them recently. They were set to be acquired by Betsson, but thanks to our friends in the KSA applying incredible scrutiny to that acquisition, Betsson unfortunately just pulled out from that, I can say, because it's been published now, so I do feel very badly for them, but of course they're still on our platform. Also a lot of pressure on the land-based operators, as we heard today, because these tax increases and things actually hit the land-based even harder than the online, where the margins are even thinner. And you have capital costs and staff and real estate and all these other kind of costs to concern about. So a lot of those companies now are doubling down their effort on online, where they can capitalize their brand and also their kind of loyalty from their local players to translate that over to online. But often these companies, they know the land-based business well, but they don't know online. And you know, it's a completely different skill set, and you need a lot of highly specialized developers and processes in place, especially in a market like the Netherlands, where there's such difficult and constantly changing technical requirements. That's the other thing. They're not static. You don't just build the system and let it run for a few years, unfortunately, because the KSA has their way of liking to make things change quite frequently, not always for the better, and that often means an awful lot of changes on the technical side, which aren't visible. It doesn't look like anything different on the final product delivery, but all this stuff is happening in the background. People are running around, usually in a very tight timeline to get things done for the audit. You're smiling, so I can see my fellow platform feels my pain. But this is what we do. So we call ourselves the platform of cooperation. What does this mean? We do things a little bit differently because we're from the Nordics, which has a certain business ethic that is, while competitive, it's still very open. And so we started to actually bring all of the principal people from our operators together from the Netherlands, so competitors. And we do this now on basically a quarterly basis. So we bring all the competitors around the same table, and because honestly, they have more in common than they have they have more to gain from opening in discussion with each other. I don't want to say with a mutual enemy, but at least with a mutual challenge. And so they have a lot to learn from each other. And this industry, I'm about 6 years in this industry now, in a lot of ways I've seen it's very closed. So people are very private about their companies, their information. They absolutely don't want to sit across the table from their competitor and share any trade secrets. No, this is forbidden. But we're Finnish, so we like to do things differently, and we thought, let's just try this once. And now this has become something that's built into our business model, actually. If you come to the Finnplay platform, you're going to have the opportunity to sit around with your competitors, with people in different jurisdictions who maybe have already tackled the same problems that you're dealing with, and have a really open and honest conversation. And the thing is that the platform, as unsexy as it is, it's the center of the ecosystem of iGaming. It's the place where everything connects. That's where the operator, the suppliers, the regulator, and ultimately the most important thing, the player, are all converging on this nexus of what is the platform. So it is actually kind of the nerve center of the iGaming business. So I have a few more slides to go through. I asked my head of my Dutch business to prepare a few very Dutch-specific slides for today's conversation. And in honor of him being a technical guy, he gave me a wall of text slides, which you would expect. I thought I was going to fix them and make them sexy for this presentation, but then I thought that wouldn't be in keeping with the topic of my talk, so I kept it really unsexy. You're going to see a bunch of bullet points, and I'll go through them. How am I for time, by the way?
Oh, you're okay. You have like
I'm
10
good.
minutes.
All right. So being open, here's the operators that we currently have live. There's another on the way, which some people in this room may know about, that will be opening in January 27th. So we'll have 6 brands live in the Netherlands. So some of the features, the CDB, it's a big issue. This is the one I spoke about earlier. It is something that should be simple, but it's not. It's very complex to deliver, and there's no margin for error, basically. Certificate management for the PKI, Crooks, CDB, KSA encryption, registration options. So we have, let's say, the top market-leading registration options available on the platform. Same goes for the payment providers. So some of these guys are here. I don't know if you're in the room at the moment, but CDDN, BlueM, IDIN, these are all, of course, kind of required to do business in this market. And same with ADN. I know that he's here somewhere. Trustly and other payment providers coming on board. 182 different games, 61 direct integrations, marketing features. Great presentation from Bragg earlier about marketing. Super important in a market like this where your kind of hands are tied in a lot of the things you would like to do. You know, if you go over to the gray market, you have so much more options about what you can do to incentivize players, to increase player value and retention. You're more limited, but that means you have to be more clever about the way you design your bonuses. And so we've done a lot of work designing and tailoring bonus structures just for this market. And of course, a back office and reporting. Few more. So RG, again, really important in regulated market. Internal self-exclusion, crux check monitoring, the crux system, which famously goes down at least once per month by my last check, and everybody goes into a panic. But fortunately, we have 5 operators, so when they all report it at the same time, we know it's not a problem with one. It's generally for everybody. Deposit limits, obviously, a big change recently with the net deposit threshold. And I believe, or I'm told, that we were the very first to have that ready to go live in the market. And let's see if the cross-brand deposit threshold starts to get into play as well. Player limits, of course, personalized ones, configurable timeouts, cool-offs, all these RG notifications. Now there came this small change that we need to get in touch with the player. Once we've received a delta or a distress signal in the player's activity, and we realize this player is getting into some sort of a problem gaming situation, you have 1 hour basically to get in touch with that player. And so we had to build a lot into the system in the back end to make sure that the operator gets notified properly and has the correct tools to reach out to the player in time so that there's no breach on that front, because that's a really big problem if you don't first properly identify that player, and secondly, intervene in whatever is the appropriate way, whether it's sending them an email or a pop-up notification or picking up the phone and, you know, doing a source of funds, source of wealth check to check in on that player. Really, really critical. We have Necton in this market, and also Mindway AI, who's one of the co-sponsors of this event with us. So you need to have good partners, and that again comes back to the platform. The platform is the sum of all the partners that are in it. And you know, if I added up every partner that we connect and integrate and make live for one operator, it's thousands. The games, the payments, third party, everything together. And we have to make it work, because when something goes wrong, it's always the first problem is always with the platform to check. So more RG, again, super important for this market. I mentioned the net deposit threshold, cool op bonus triggers, partial automated intervention, and then now limit changes for young adults as well. So we have to be able to identify age of player and adjust the limits accordingly. As promised, lots of text, but we're getting to the end here. So how are we different, and why do we think this is important for technology in a regulated market like the Netherlands? It's important to take ownership, for one. We've certainly seen with other platforms, present company completely excluded, that there is a challenge with operators, especially, let's say, platforms who are specialized in every market, who are doing gray markets as well. You know, they have large volume and very low level of personalization. And we have had many operators over the years come to our platform into a regulated market, and the biggest surprise was the amount of personalization they were able to do and the amount of ownership we take, because there's such a different level of accountability in a market like this. There's nowhere to turn, it's on us. So we do have a record, which I say going back 16 years now, of 100% performance with 0 breaches in any market in the world. And that's not an easy thing to accomplish in a challenging technical field like we work in. So no operator on our platform has ever received any kind of a penalty or a fee, or certainly a license revocation. And that's because we take ownership of what we do. We can prioritize, so we make small groups. So every operator will get personalized groups, right all the way down to release manager, front-end manager. You've got dedicated developers, dedicated QA, a dedicated project manager, a dedicated account manager. So everything inside our ecosystem is highly dedicated towards each individual brand, even if they're in the same market. And transparency and cooperation. So this leads to this platform of cooperation, which I discussed before. We think it's really helpful and really important that the operators can come together around a table and work with each other, because yes, they are competitors, but at the end of the day, it's not a zero-sum game. We can all win together, and especially if we can affect some leverage to get changes, let's say favorable changes on the regulatory side with the regulators. That's the best thing we can all do, working together. And I think this is just a slide showing the team structure, which of course my team manager wanted to throw in. We have a head of the Dutch market. Each person inside, so for every jurisdiction, it's super important that you have a team that's dedicated, that just does that jurisdiction. And the Dutch market is such a special animal, because I will say, and we're in other difficult regulated markets like Lithuania and Sweden and Hungary, but the Dutch market is a special beast. This is probably the most technically challenging market that we're in, and it's a moving target because everything is changing all the time. And I'll get to the end. Last thing, I'll close with some things coming up. Little self-promotion again. New multi-wallet feature, really important if you want to be able to run in a market like this. multiple simultaneous campaigns with their own wallet, so you can kind of track them independently. Where you have limited marketing options, you need to do as much as you can within the kind of restrictions by the law. So we've developed this actually specifically for the Dutch market, coming out this year. Milestones campaigns, a lot of what my friend from Bragg has touched on, and campaign triggers for, let's call them gamification features, free round reporting improvements, and GDPR, another super unsexy thing, but handling the data and making sure that the site remains completely GDPR compliant, super important. It's, again, a moving target. Requirements are changing all the time, so we've created a specialized tool just for that. And then stream, so for real-time reporting, again, really important that you get the best data you possibly can get. So we've made some very specialized tools to give real-time reporting at a very deep level from the platform directly. And sports betting product expansion, we have one very good partner here in the audience and several more. As a platform, we need to make the best content available that our operators need. And we have the challenge then of also connecting that sports application in the Dutch market to the CDB, which is a whole other animal, and improving your reporting. And that gets to the end. So I open to your questions, if there are any.
Are you in favor of B2B licensing?
Yes, very much. It helps a company like ours because we live and breathe technical requirement, and we think that it pushes out of the market those who maybe aren't so willing and dedicated to do what's necessary to be completely compliant. So at least in some other markets like Sweden, where we're live, we have the B2B license. In Romania, again, B2B license. We were formerly in the UK with the B2B license. We think at least for us, it's favorable because it should kind of clean the market of anybody who's not, let's say, dedicated to the regulated markets. That's what we've seen in places like Sweden. That's the theory. Now, in practice, I can take Sweden as an example. It's a small fee, you pay it, and really the enforcement is very low. I mean, the requirement on it is not terribly stringent. And I don't know, I mean, of course, there's talk about it coming here. Generally, we're in favor of it because we're built, just for compliance, that it actually leans to our favor.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said that you sit together with operators to discuss the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give an example, or is it the bullets that you mentioned? What kind of problem could be discussed in such a setting?
Yeah, let me see if I can think of an exact example. Without giving too many trade secrets, let's say they will talk quite openly about things like bonusing strategy. So stuff that's actually quite personal to their business, ultimately is delivered by the platform. But there's always a lot of debate about if we engineer the bonus this way, are we compliant? Are we walking on the line? If we send this kind of a message out to the players about, anything related to a bonus, it's always kind of a gray area, what's okay, and so it's good to get consensus, and so the operators will talk pretty openly about their ideas of how they want to structure, for example, different kinds of bonuses, and get feedback from the others that would they do it, do they think it's okay. Our job on the tech side is just to make sure that it can be built and delivered, but the kind of legal side of it, that's for the operators to check on the B2B side or B2C side, and in that form, they'll talk pretty openly about that kind of thing.
Because it's not because I was wondering, the CDB, it's not that there's a new model, and then you discuss together how can we, in a compliant way, implement a new CDB model. That's not what's discussed, that's what you are doing.
Yeah, sorry, and I should repeat the questions because apparently this is being recorded, but so the question was about what type of topics might come up in these operator roundtables. And no, probably not. The CDB is not something that is open for a big discussion. You know, that you have requirements and we have to fulfill them, and that's kind of done on the tech side. I would say around the table, the operators are more talking openly about things like marketing strategies or interpretations of upcoming B2C law changes and how they will implement those into their business via the platform, because ultimately we're delivering whatever they need. And there, I would say that if I have 5 operators around the table, I usually have 5 different opinions. And it's healthy. You know, they keep coming back. We did it the first time and we thought that, well, let's see if anybody comes. Everybody came. And then it was so productive, then it's continued, and now it's become a quarterly event. In fact, the next one is happening this month here in Amsterdam. We bring everybody together and have this kind of, let's say, struggle session often, you know, because everybody is having the same difficulties from the regulatory side often, and yeah, so, but I think it's quite healthy, and I think it's rare in this industry. I don't see it happening elsewhere where you get competitors around the table willing to kind of open up the books a little bit and get feedback from other competitors.
Okay, I think we have time for one final question, if any.
Great. Well, thank you all for your time.
Okay.